So if you jump all the way back to 1970, that is the NFC Championship game, and it's between the Cowboys and the 49ers. This is a game that was started by Craig Morton. So in the history of the Cowboys, the earliest, biggest quarterback controversy, and still probably to this day, it's the biggest quarterback controversy in the history of the organization, was Craig Morton and Roger Staubach. And Craig Morton was the starter in the 1970 season. Cowboys beat the 49ers on the road 17-10. They go to their first Super Bowl appearance, lose to the Colts in Super Bowl V. The following year, the 71 NFC Championship game, Cowboys win 14-3 at Texas Stadium. They go on to win their first Super Bowl against the Dolphins a couple weeks later. After that game, Lyndon Johnson, this is the game that Roger Staubach started the following year. Lyndon Johnson goes into the locker room and says, "You're the best. They should rename this place Staubach Stadium." And so big support for Roger Staubach. They had alternated snaps earlier in that 71 season. Yeah. They stuck with Staubach, and then
Roger
had carried
with that.
Staubach, the following preseason, gets hurt because he wouldn't go out of bounds. He wouldn't slide. He wouldn't do whatever. Tom Landry was furious with it because Staubach got hit, separated his shoulder. He needed surgery. He was going to be out 8 to 12 weeks. New York Times wrote about it at the time. Tom Landry said, "It's not very good. You can't run over big guys. You got to run out of bounds." He's a great competitor. He was going for the goal line. This is the worst injury in football. And Staubach refused to talk to the media after it had happened because he was just so depressed. So Craig Morton takes over again and leads the Cowboys to a pretty great season. They get to the 1972 NFC divisional round against the 49ers, and this is the first game the Cowboys would ever play in Candlestick, and it was brutal. They were down by as much as 18. It was 28-13 late in the third when Craig Morton was finally benched, and they brought Staubach back because Morton had kept the job because Staubach didn't look right. Staubach comes in, leads them on 3 scoring drives in the fourth quarter. They recover an onside kick, go ahead, and they win that game 30-28, stun the 49ers, and Craig Morton would never start a game for the Cowboys ever again after that.
Now, if you didn't want us to ask Jerry Jones about 20 years ago, how are you feeling about this deep dive 40 years ago?
Well, no. I mean, like, when we're talking historically with the history of the rivalry, I think it's a little bit different than asking, like, the current GM about the only period of success they've ever had 30 years ago.
Yeah, and those, when you want to talk about how the biggest quarterback controversy in the history of the organization was essentially settled by these 3 playoff games against the 49ers in the 70s. That's what ultimately set in stone that Roger Staubach was the quarterback for the 70s for the Cowboys. And
I disagree with your take.
Why?
The biggest quarterback controversy in the history of this team was Romo Dak.
Don't do that.
How many tweets were sent about the Morton Staubach quarterback controversy?
Why?
How many phone calls on Sports Talk Radio were made on the Staubach Morton controversy?
Brad Shan versus Mike Fisher versus Norm Hitzkiss versus Galloway on the air.
Hey,
nobody.
Vern Lundquist took a ton of calls. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it because I know nobody wants to. Of course, 1981. The 49ers dynasty domino gets pushed over when Dwight Clark makes the catch to beat the Cowboys in the NFC title game.
Again, the most overrated play in sports history.
As they will tell you, as Cowboys players will tell you, Everson Wallace to this day will tell you, he was trying to throw the ball out of bounds. He was not trying to hit Dwight. He was not trying to hit Dwight Clark.
Didn't Joe say that?
Joe Montana's always been kind of like cheeky about it. Yeah. Like, I don't know. We practiced that play a lot. And this started just a brutal run for the Cowboys against the 49ers where they lose 42-17, 31-16, 31-14. In fact, the Cowboys had not beaten the 49ers since 1980, when in 1992 they faced off in the NFC Championship game. And this was a huge game for the success of the Cowboys heading into the 90s because they were considered to be a year early. Everybody thought the Cowboys were a year early. Everybody thought San Francisco's a better team. They've got veteran players who just went through a whole decade of this. They've got a coaching staff that went through this. This is the young, cocky Cowboy team that doesn't know what they're going up against. And they go into this game and hang with the 49ers. This is when Bill Walsh was famous for the scripting the first 15 plays on offense. And that was continued in with George Seifert. Dave Wannstedt, the defensive coordinator that game, decided to change things up. And he said, I'm going to script the first 15 plays on defense.
We got some breaking news.
Is this real? Ooh.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, it's not mega.
I can't tell anymore because of Twitter's fake Twitter stuff.
The Patriots are trading for J.C. Jackson, a reunion, compensation of late round picks, So J.C. Jackson, after getting the big money with the Chargers, going back to New England after he had the inactive, a lot of drama in L.A. J.C. Jackson going to the Pats.
They've done that a lot, haven't they? Like, I feel like the Pats have, like, rescued people out of situations after teams have gone, well, we'll pay this Patriots player, and then they just go back and scoop him up like Malcolm Butler. But the Cowboys, they're leading 24-20 late in this game, and they make the famous call, 896F flat. After Jimmy Johnson told North Turner, I want to score. Like, put these guys away late in this game. I don't want to play it safe. I want to score. And that's always been a funny story because Michael Irvin, every time that play was called, Bateman kept throwing to the curl route, which was Alvin Harper. So Michael Irvin said, all right, fine. I'm going to go line up on the other side. I'm switching sides with Alvin Harper since this is getting called here late, and I'm going to catch the curl. And on that play, Aikman threw it to the post, which was Harper. Harper makes the 70-yard run downfield. They score a couple plays later, ice it. And, of course, that then gave us, in the post game, the most famous quote in the history of the Dallas Cowboys.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Every single one of you. I mean, I'm not just talking about these last 60 minutes. I'm talking about the quarterback schools, the mini camp, the off-season, the training camp, down in Austin when it was hot and you were tired. The whole bit. Everybody, you did one hell of a job. And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
So that started a dynasty for the Cowboys, gave us the most famous quote. 93, they run them. 94, the 49ers go out in the offseason and acquire Ricky Jackson, Deion Sanders, Ken Norton. They do it. They spend like wild men the first year of free agency to just, we're chasing the Cowboys. We've got to beat them. And that 94 NFC Championship game, Dallas falls down 21-0 in the first 7 minutes because they turn the ball over so many times.
I love it. This is how you know Bobby's obsessed with this. He's reciting all this without looking at anything. Very, very Pat Doney-esque. Very impressive.
Bernie Kosar come in that game?
Bernie Kosar came in the 93 game when Aikman got knocked out. 94, they fought their way back. That's the famous Deion interference on the arm bar. And then, I mean, you look at the history of even when they've not had great teams. 2000. Terrell Owens run into the star, George Teague hitting him. There was a lot there. Of course, Jesse Holley, Romo punctured lung game in 2011. And then these last 2 years, the way it's contributed, and I'm convinced they're going to play twice this year. They're going to play this weekend, and they are going, it just feels like this is setting up for you are going to see them in the playoffs again. And I think the contribution to each team's story from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like on, I don't see another rivalry that has impacted as many different versions of a team over as many different decades as this one.
Well, if they meet again this year, that means one of two things. Either one of them is a wild card team or it's the NFC Championship game.
I think we're getting number 7.
Because we're probably very I don't see either one of these teams facing off in the divisional round outside of one of them being a wild card. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I would think it would either be because Dallas is 1 or 2.
Well, the Cowboys would be a wild card.
In that instance,
no. If they meet in the divisional round, yeah. But I'm saying like
that's how they're going to meet in the divisional round,
right? And I'm saying I don't think like if they meet again, it's either A, the Cowboys didn't win the division, or B, it's the NFC Championship.
Yeah, that's the two ways that it would happen because San Francisco is going to be one of the top 2 seeds. That's locked in, and this is a huge game this weekend. I think just for their mental state of playing that team again.